There's not a chance in hell that this is funny or gonna work. And when you see those flat, corny, late-night monologue jokes with no audience, Colbert, there's Jimmy Kimmel, there's Fallon. What they're doing is just like reading off of a teleprompter. So a bunch of really good joke writers wrote them some stuff, and then they're playing to the audience, and the audience is like laughing, so they get this feedback, and they know how to do that. They stand there, and there's applause signs. And then there's producers. There's the warm-up guy that's literally telling people to clap. They're like, okay, explaining to the people, okay, when Jimmy comes out, I want a big round of applause. Let's practice this right now.
Imagine waking up to discover Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson have joined forces. No heads up, no hesitation, just chaos. Their first move? Going straight after Jimmy Kimmel. No mercy, no filter, just two unpredictable voices with microphones and nothing to lose. What began as standard late-night jokes quickly exploded into a tag-team smackdown that left Hollywood frozen. Kimmel tried to hit back, but it felt like bringing a whistle to a missile launch. This wasn't a simple feud anymore. It turned into a full-on comedy crash fest. So grab your popcorn, because this is the lesser-known story of how Jimmy Kimmel's world got completely turned upside down.
How can Jimmy Kimmel live with him? Like, Jimmy Kimmel is a talented guy, and I don't think he's like an evil person or something, but he's made this deal where he just serves power and attacks anybody who challenges power. Like, how can... Honestly, how can he look in the mirror and say, I'm doing something honorable? Like, how can he live with himself? How can his wife sleep with him?
Well, and this is why so much of comedy is not funny today. It's my chief criticism of like late night comedy, which I find unwatchable. I think it's totally unwatchable.
But also contemptible. I mean, they're collaborators.
They're just like the fact checkers. They're guardians of the narrative.
Joe Rogan is a lot of things. A stand-up comic, a jiu-jitsu addict, a mushroom-loving philosopher, a UFC hype machine. But more than anything, he's the voice of people who instinctively roll their eyes at anything mainstream. And when he turns that stare toward modern late-night TV, things get ugly fast. He calls it unwatchable, embarrassing. He sees stiff, corny monologues, applause queued up by producers, and warm-up guys literally telling the audience when to clap. To him, it feels completely fake. There's no real edge, no honesty. In Rogan's mind, Kimmel sold out. He made a deal to protect power, to go after anyone who questions the approved story. Rogan genuinely wonders how a talented comedian can live with that, turning into a gatekeeper of the narrative, no different from the infamous fact-checkers. Kimmel, once sharp and fearless, now feels like he's hosting soft therapy sessions under moody studio lights. A comedian reduced to a safe, comfortable punching bag for mainstream praise. Rogan's point is simple. Comedy is supposed to punch up. It's meant to challenge the powerful, not defend them like palace guards. And that, he says, is exactly why so much comedy today just isn't funny anymore.
Road to obscurity. Nobody's going to care anymore. It's like you're seeing it take place with late night television. Nobody gives a fuck about it anymore.
I know.
And it's slowly, you have a bad business model and you're not adapting.
Yeah, the creativity's gone for late night comedy, right? Like, that's not really a thing anymore.
It'd be one thing if his job wasn't to be a comedian and to do that, but his job is to be he's supposed to be funny, and comedians are supposed to hold people in positions of power accountable.
Suck up
Yeah,
to the people in charge.
Exactly.
He's their Praetorian guard.
Yeah, and
it's like the self-hatred he must feel, because he wasn't always. That's my point. Yeah. I mean, Colbert has always been a hard partisan, talented guy, but obviously he's not a comedian. But Kimmel was a comedian. Like, how does he? I don't understand.
I don't know
how he can sleep.
The change in Jimmy Kimmel isn't just about style. It's a full-blown contradiction. He used to be the class clown, firing off edgy jokes from a beer-stained couch. Now he comes off like a moral referee, wrapped in applause cues and carefully written think pieces. Basically a greeting card with a teleprompter. To Rogan, that's comedic betrayal. You don't clean up the punchline. You don't cover it in virtue signals. And you definitely don't end it with a teary sermon. That's not standing up on stage, that's standing down. Rogan questions the whole act. How do you mock regular people one moment and then claim to stand with them the next? How do you cash in on Hollywood fame while pretending you're still just one of the guys? Rogan tears that story apart the way a UFC fighter breaks down a papier-mâché opponent, slowly, methodically, and with way more force than necessary. And his conclusion is blunt. The creativity in late-night comedy is gone. It's a bad formula, and it's quietly pushing once respected figures toward irrelevance because they refuse to change.
He might buy into the narrative to the extent that he thinks it's morally wrong to joke about these certain topics.
But it's not just that. He's like pouring hot oil on the peasants from the parapet. Like he's hurting anyone who challenges the king. It's crazy.
It is crazy. It's upside down. The comedians should be poking holes in the popular narrative, not propping it up.
Jimmy Kimmel is. Like, truly. No, I mean it.
You
like,
said it,
no
not me.
No amount of money is worth what he's doing, in my opinion.
In that case, do you think that's him or a writer? Can't you tell?
Jimmy Kimmel?
Yeah.
No, it's him, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
good. That's a good one.
He's a comic.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, he used to host The Man Show. I mean, he's done some pretty outrageous shit back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, for hee-hees and haw-haws.
No, that's a good joke on top of a good joke.
Yeah, it's a good joke. Funny thing to say. He's had a real problem with Elon from the beginning of this thing, but it's like he's in this leftist thought bubble. He is in the most leftist thought bubble available, which is Hollywood.
Meanwhile, on the other side of the country, Tucker was straightened his tie and calmly lining up his shot. Where Joe Rogan threw punches, Tucker delivered smirks, clean, precise, and somehow even more painful. His style is the velvet glove gut punch, the raised eyebrow that quietly asks, "Is this guy serious?" When Jimmy Kimmel drifted into political commentary disguised as comedy, Tucker didn't just criticize it, he put it under a microscope on national TV. Kimmel, once the guy cracking jokes about celebrities tripping over themselves, now wanted to be Hollywood's moral guide. Tucker wasn't buying it. To him, Kimmel wasn't a comedian anymore, but a failed pundit playing dress-up as Jon Stewart, just with weaker writers and louder applause. It wasn't anger. Tucker doesn't do anger. It was pure confusion. Cool, passive-aggressive confusion that seemed to ask how someone goes from mocking The Bachelor as lecturing the country about democracy. Step by step, Tucker broke down the contradiction. He didn't need to shout. Simply pointing out Kimmel's shift from class clown to preachy substitute teacher was enough to turn the whole thing into a joke. Tucker highlighted how Kimmel now lives inside the tightest bubble imaginable, Hollywood. And that's where it really landed. The more serious Kimmel tried to be, the funnier he looked through Tucker's lens. A comedian who forgot how to tell jokes and settled for safe, politically approved performance art. It was like watching a magician forget his tricks and start yelling at the crowd instead. To Tucker, boredom is the ultimate crime, and this version of Kimmel was basically a missionary for monotony. He framed Kimmel as a symbol of something bigger, the death of authenticity and the takeover of comedy by politics. In Tucker's view, Kimmel became a media puppet, a polished spokesperson for elite approval, trading satire for sermons. And while Kimmel soaked in the applause of his studio crowd, the takedown landed like a car in ludicrous mode, quiet, fast, and dripping with smug precision.
Even the quote comedians, they were on propaganda duty too. Watch this.
He's also pushing U.S. intelligence to find evidence for this theory that the virus was accidentally released from a lab in Wuhan. That's his new angle to feed the wingnuts, to treat this virus like it was a conspiracy of some kind.
It should have never happened. This plague should never have happened. It could have been stopped. But people chose not to stop it.
What people? Tomorrow he'll blame the Spanish flu on Antonio Banderas.
Yeah. Imagine if you're a comedian and all of a sudden your cue card has all kinds of talking points from politicians and foreign governments on it. Don't read it. You degrade yourself and you become complicit in the greatest crime in history.
That sort of self-censorship and the idea of being a more empathetic person is a good thing, right? But as long as it's reasonable. But the thing is, the problem with that kind of stuff is it continues to go in the same direction where more and more things become forbidden and toxic.
Here's the real twist. They weren't even working together. This wasn't planned, and it definitely wasn't coordinated. It was two people from completely opposite worlds who looked at the same guy and both thought, uh-oh. Joe Rogan came at it from the cultural fringe, questioning whether Kimmel was still relevant or even real anymore. Tucker Carlson came from the top of the media food chain, questioning his authenticity and what his transformation said about the culture itself. And Jimmy Kimmel was stuck in the middle like a deer caught in headlights. One side yelling about elk jerky and aliens, the other calmly laying out historical context. It was a perfect 1-2 punch from totally different universes. A strange, bipartisan reality check nobody expected. And when both Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson independently decide you're a walking contradiction, that's usually a sign something has gone very, very wrong.
Jimmy Kimmel made a tweet back to him. He said, "Your pronouns are ass and hole," which is pretty funny. But then,
Did he really?
Yes. And so then I read that, and there was people saying, "Please don't joke about pronouns. It's transphobic to joke about pronouns." So they were chiding him for participating in a joke about pronouns.
So Jimmy Kimmel was doing it. He was doing it too.
Yeah, he was doing it too.
Yeah. No, he was being accused of joking about it too.
So they were upset at him, even though he was attacking the appropriate person. He was doing it in a manner which is also construed as being transphobic.
The job description of a comedian is not so different from the job description of a journalist, as traditionally constituted. Tell the truth about the powerful. Comedians are usually a lot smarter, more clever, and incisive than journalists, but that's what they're supposed to be doing. Almost none still do. Adam Carolla is one of the very few remaining comedians in the United States.
The aftermath played out exactly how you'd expect. Kimmel didn't respond. He really couldn't. There's no good way to answer Rogan's calm dismantling or Tucker's ice-cold breakdown. At that point, all you can do is hope the internet moves on. His supporters rushed in with the familiar defenses. He's grown, he's courageous, he's telling the truth. But what people actually saw was someone who had turned into a walking contradiction. In Kimmel's world, the crowd applauds no matter what. They clap when the joke works. They clap when it doesn't. They clap when he awkwardly stumbles through a heartfelt speech about justice that was clearly written by someone else. The applause never stops. It's loud, empty, and expected. Rogan's audience doesn't clap. They question things. They rewind clips. They argue in the comments. They don't fall for the performance. And Tucker's audience? They keep receipts. They'll let you dig the hole yourself, then calmly explain how you did it, with slides. In the end, Jimmy Kimmel wasn't canceled. He wasn't silenced. He was something far worse. He got clowned.
They mean nothing.
I agree. Wait until you hear about this guy named Tucker Carlson. You are gonna hate him.
The undeniably big topics, the ones that will define our future, get virtually no discussion at all. War, civil liberties, emerging science, demographic change, corporate power, natural resources.
Right. The big topics, the important subjects like these.
Well, it turns out leprechauns exist not just on cereal boxes. For a lot of people who believe they have seen a leprechaun, now it faces an even more profound threat. Zombie raccoons. Honestly, how much emotional support does a snake provide?
This wasn't bullying. It was more like an intervention from two guys who don't agree on much of anything. And somehow, they both reached the same conclusion. Jimmy Kimmel became the very thing he used to make fun of. The real irony? He probably thinks he's winning. Rogan, who values authenticity above all else, saw Kimmel as about as real as a gluten-free chicken nugget cooked in a vegan air fryer. Tucker, who obsesses over principle, seemed to lose his last ounce of patience watching Kimmel play America's moral voice while sipping organic tea backstage. There was no redemption arc here, no heroic comeback. Just two heavyweights quietly stepping away from the ring, leaving behind the smoking wreckage of a man who forgot what made him funny to begin with. A comedian's job, much like a journalist's, is to speak truth to power. Almost none of them still do. And when the final joke is you, and people aren't laughing with you anymore, only at you, that's not just a slump, that's exile. Kimmel slowly became the symbol of everything that went wrong with late-night TV. Too polished, not funny enough, overflowing with self-importance. He wasn't edgy anymore. He was safe, soft, easy to digest, built for corporate approval. It's almost impressive how he managed to become the shared target of two men who agree on absolutely nothing, except maybe that cardio is terrible. Rogan and Carlson landed in the same place. Jimmy Kimmel isn't dangerous. He isn't funny. And he isn't relevant. He's a TED Talk about wearing clown shoes. The jester turned into the preacher. The show became the joke, and no one ever had to yell it at him. Rogan left and moved on. Tucker just stared and dissected. Same outcome either way. Kimmel didn't implode in a viral moment. He didn't melt down on camera. He unraveled slowly and quietly, as everything he once stood for fell apart right in front of everyone.